There we go. So, hello, thank you for joining us today. Do you want to just introduce yourself and who you're cuddling today?
Yes, so my name is Fern and this is baby Arran, who is only 5 weeks old.
Oh, I think he's our youngest so far. So, well, we'll just get stuck right in then. Do you want to just tell us a wee bit about your pregnancy?
Yeah, so Arran is my second baby boy. Found out about 2 weeks before lockdown that I was pregnant. We were trying for a second and we were going to put the stops on it just because of what was happening, but obviously it was too late at the time. This pregnancy wasn't as easy as my first. I felt more sick. I had more aches and pains. Everything just seemed different to the first time around. The first time around, I sailed through, no problems whatsoever. And going through it through a pandemic as well was just a bit. Shall we just say it was interesting?
Yeah, I can imagine, because you don't have that access to the same support you would have done the first time round from family and friends.
Yeah, you could always phone up triage and they were always there. And I did end up in triage a few times. And I'll be honest, every time I was in triage, apart from the mask wearing, it did feel like it was normal. The midwives were fantastic. The support is there. For you. And I did end up in triage maybe half a dozen times to various different stages for various different reasons. But I had to go to the scans myself. My husband wasn't able to come to the scans, which was very, very difficult. But I mean, they made the best out of a bad situation, because on the 20-week scan, you're allowed to take a video of the scan so you could take it home to show everyone, which in normal circumstances, you wouldn't be able to do that. So that was nice to sort of have anyway. But apart from that, the hospital visits and that were quite normal compared to what it was pre-pandemic.
Okay.
So I've got no complaints with that bit.
That's good. And which hospital was it that you were seeing?
Forth Valley in Lava.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, like I said, the support from the midwives was absolutely fantastic. I can't fault them in the slightest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just being in lockdown, not having the same support physically was harder, yes.
I can imagine.
Of course it was, yeah.
Oh, and so you're sort of saying then you didn't really find, once you were in the hospital, apart from going into appointments on your own, that you didn't really feel there was too much of a difference in the way they were running things from your last pregnancy?
No, not at all. You're still getting all your regular checks, all your regular appointments. You the same amount of midwife appointments you would normally get. You would, all your scans, all the triage support. I would say it was all pretty more normal pre-pandemic, because obviously having my first, I've had something to compare it against.
Yeah, of course. And that's fab that they've tried to keep it as normal as possible. That makes a big difference.
The only difference was you had to go on your own. Even to triage, when I was having a few scary moments, yes, it was upsetting and it was more intense being on your own. But I mean, again, you just had to get on with it. That's it,
Yeah.
So, and I think if anything did take a turn for the worst, you could have your partner in with you, right. But thankfully it never got to that point with me.
That's good to know. Okay, and so, well, do you want to we'll start from the kind of beginning of when things all kicked off, and do you want to talk about your birth as it starts, if that works for you?
Yeah, so I was 39 weeks pregnant, really big, really uncomfortable, sore. And I was actually getting extra scans at the time, because at the 12-week scan, a hormone deficiency cropped up, which there's not a lot of information about, which made it a little bit more, not difficult, but like, because there wasn't much to go on, there was no sort of, no knowing what was going to happen then. But it's not a bad thing. It's just basically affected the baby's growth. And this little man was smaller than his brother in the end. But I mean, it wasn't terribly small. You know, it wasn't problem. You know, it wasn't it was still 6 pounds 13, which to me was a decent weight, and it was enough. So because I was getting the extra scans, they basically booked me in to be induced at 39 weeks. Went for the induction, didn't work, was really sore, really uncomfortable. So we stopped the induction, and within 10 minutes, my waters then naturally went. Well, we're not sure if they went naturally or it was because I was being examined constantly because I was being induced. And I was hooked up to a heart rate monitor the whole time I was in from being induced. And this little man's heart rate just kept dramatically dropping and then shooting back up again. And it was whenever it dropped, because it was being monitored from outside the room as well. I mean, I had about four people come in at once whenever the heart rate dropped, which was quite scary. But by the time they came in and started like flapping around, he was fine again. The heart rate was fine. So anyway, we just kept an eye on that. That happened a few times. Because my waters had gone, nothing was happening. Labour didn't kick in. And about 4 or 5 hours later, one of the doctors came in and said, I probably saw about 3 different doctors the whole time. From 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night, probably saw about 3 different doctors at various times. And 11 o'clock, one of the doctors came in and said, I'm not happy with the situation. I'm not happy with what the baby's doing. We're going to send you down for an emergency C-section. So that was quite scary. I mean, it wasn't a mad dash down to theatre, but this little one was born within the hour.
Right, okay.
So, from the minute they decided they were giving me the C-section, it was very quick. They prepped me, husband got prepped, wheeled down to theatre, everything.
What point did your husband come in? Like,
he was with me the whole time.
Okay, so he was in for the induction as well.
He came in for the induction. As long as I was in the labour ward, he was allowed to stay with me.
Right.
And also, when I was induced, sorry, I tell a lie. When I was induced, because I was lucky enough to have a private room, he was allowed to stay with me. Now, if I'd been in a room with 4 other ladies, I would have had to been on my own until I was a certain way through labour. He was allowed to, once I got wheeled through to the labour ward, that's when he was allowed to come in.
Okay. So
I was quite lucky that it was quiet the day I went in.
Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does, because when I had William, I was in the labour ward all day after he was born because they didn't have a bed for me in postnatal ward.
Wow.
So yeah, it was night and day with the differences. So this little man was born at 2 minutes to midnight, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, I got wheeled into the ward, and that's when my husband basically got booted out of the hospital. But because of the time of day it was, I think he was quite grateful to go home and get some sleep. But it was pretty scary, basically, to say, well, I've just had the baby, see you later.
Yeah.
And I was in a room with 2 other ladies at the time who'd also had C-sections.
Right, okay.
And that was it. I was on my own until later on that day. Well, obviously with doctors and midwives coming in, but husband had to phone up in advance and book an hour appointment.
My goodness.
And I got two days I was in hospital. I got an hour each day with him.
Which was tough.
Which is brutal. And the 3rd day they asked me what my thoughts were, and I said I wanted to go home. Now I probably wasn't ready to go home because I was still in a lot of pain after the C-section, obviously. And I probably should have spent another night in hospital, but I wasn't. It's not a happy place when you're only getting a 1 hour a day. And don't get me wrong, it's nice that the midwives come in. The domestic staff were lovely as well. But yeah, I just wanted to get home and get back to normality, really.
Yeah, sometimes that aids your recovery as well when you're in familiar surroundings and you've got that kind of, well, one-on-one attention really from your other half or whoever you've got at home. That can help your recovery better than being somewhere where you're not as calm and there's other babies going off in the middle of the night. I think that's one of the other bits, is once one baby starts crying,
Yes,
it kind of sets the
yes.
others off.
Multiple babies in a ward.
Yeah.
It's not a restful place. It's not a restful place, really.
Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was tough being on your own, but I mean, you have the choice to go home, and that's it, regardless of your situation. I mean, if I'd had a natural birth, I probably would have been out later on the same day.
Yeah. Within a few hours, absolutely. And how did your hubby find it all?
Yeah, he struggled leaving me because he just wanted to be there for support mostly. And he was just coming home to an empty house. I mean, he's quite a chilled guy anyway. He doesn't really say, but he could see he was always dragging his heels when it was time to go, and we tried to span it out another 10 minutes, but once I managed to get signal or I got onto the Wi-Fi in the hospital, we were constant texting. We video chatted a few times as well, which was nice, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I think he struggled. To a point.
And how was he during the birth as well in theatre? Was he okay?
Fantastic. Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I was petrified when they were operating, shall we say. The screen's up, they've got, and another scary moment in the theatre itself was there was about 4 what I would call baby doctors, all literally waiting for this little one to be handed to them. And then there was another lady standing in the corner. Who she was, I'm not sure, but I think she was another doctor or baby doctor of some sort. Right. But fair play to them. They've prepared for every eventuality. But this is one thing I didn't mention before, was the doctor who made the call to put me in for a C-section basically said seconds after he was born, he was handed over to get checked over, said she made the right call because my placenta had started to come away.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So that could have been more fatal, she said, if we had waited even longer or even waited for me to go naturally.
Yeah.
That's what we put it down to. So she was quite happy that she had made the right call. And I think it kind of helped me come to terms with it as well, because
I was just going to ask that as well, how you felt about it all.
Yeah, I wasn't happy the whole situation being taken out of my hands. I wanted to go naturally. But at the end of the day, it's getting them here safe. And that's the main thing. And he's here safe. Yeah, we're a bit mashed up, but that's just what it is. So, yeah.
Had you done any sort of preparation or thinking about caesarean birth ahead of time? Or
I hadn't even considered it.
Because I take it William wasn't by caesarean.
He was such a straightforward VBAC delivery. Yep, honestly, I couldn't have had two different pregnancies and 2 different deliveries with them both. So I didn't even consider a C-section. Didn't consider it. Didn't even think about it. Could it be a possibility?
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things I'm working on, is trying to get people just to think about it ahead of time, whether you want to or not. It's always worth just looking at your options. It is, because it catches you by surprise. And
it does. And I think if you do mentally prepare yourself for it, it makes you better to deal with it, because I'll be honest, I wasn't in a good place a couple of weeks when I got home. The fact that I'd gone through it, and they say people that have gone through a C-section, they feel like they haven't really delivered properly then. And I get it, I totally get it, but when the situation's taken out of your hands, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, and you shouldn't. I know. You can't beat yourself up about it. You just can't.
I know. No, you look really well, if that helps. Considering you've got 2 little ones about now. So yeah.
It's just getting as much sleep as and when you can. I mean, going to bed at 7, 8 o'clock at night is not fun, but it's just the way you survive. If you can get 3 or 4 hours in before you're up the rest of the night, it makes such a difference. I did the same with William first. I did the same with him. I was going to bed ridiculously early, and it is tough because you're not spending any time your partner or anything. So, but
Yeah, you sort of feel like
it's
two
not
ships
forever.
passing in the night, kind of see each other but not really see each
Yeah,
other properly. Yeah, I know. I think
pretty
that's the
much.
hardest bit.
But no, but as we say, it's not forever. We will get past this, and it's fine. It's good, isn't it? We'll get there. We said the first year would be the hardest with the two of them. So once he's walking and talking, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Together.
Take up less time, or well, slightly less
I
time
don't know.
intensive.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Saying that to other mums, we all complained about having newborns and that the newborns were a doddle and looking back.
I know it's different challenges for different stages, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes. How would you say your sort of physical recovery has been? Have you kind of just
I
taken it
think I've
easy?
been very lucky. I've just recovered as standard. I mean, that's 5 weeks now. I'm back driving quite comfortably. I was driving last week. They say sort of between 4 and 6 weeks, but then what a midwife told me, because when I asked the question about being able to drive again after a C-section, she said, as long as you're comfortable doing an emergency stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I would be comfortable doing even after this.
I know it's a funny one because you get some doctors will say, oh, once your insurance has given you the okay to drive again, and then your insurance says once your doctor's given you the okay to drive again. So nobody really wants to kind of take that ownership of,
No.
yes, you can drive.
I think you know in yourself when you're ready as well. And if it takes you 8 weeks before you get behind the wheel, then that's okay.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I gave myself till Christmas. So I think the fact that I'm now comfortably driving now,
Yeah,
something.
that's
So
good.
yeah, you just set yourself a realistic goal and that's it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if,
But apart from that, yeah, I've been I think I've been very lucky in healing quite well. Yes, I have overdone it, but then that's what happens when you've got a toddler at home as well. But you do have to manage it. Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely. And if you managed to breastfeed all the way through your recovery, did you have any issues feeding at the start, or was that nice and
no, fantastically that this one was just like his brother and he knew exactly what to do and where to go from the straight off. So much so that the midwives in the hospital were quite surprised on how quickly, both times. Remember William only being an hour old and being told, right, we're going to give breastfeeding a go. I went, right, okay, of course. First time, really nervous about it. And before you know it was on and everyone's looking going, is he on? I was like, yeah, he seems to be. And that was it. We're good. And it's the same with this one.
oh
Although this one likes to mess around a little bit more,
yeah.
as you witnessed before.
Oh, that's fab. And let me just have a wee look at my prompts just to see. Oh yeah, and I normally just ask everybody if you've any tips that you'd like to share about the birth or about postnatally or even pregnancy with anybody that's watching. It doesn't have to be in depth or anything. I've kind of
Just
sprung it
go
on
with the
you.
flow. And like I said, I didn't even consider a C-section birth, caesarean. Then it didn't even cross my mind it was going to happen, and it did. And when you get told that you just go with the flow. Don't plan to have a plan, yes, but don't hold on to that plan, because I originally wanted a water birth, and because of the PAP-A hormone, I actually didn't find out until much later into my pregnancy that because of the PAP-A hormone, that was never going to be a possibility, because the minute I was going to go into hospital, I was going to get monitored. I was going to be so that was slightly upsetting, but again, you just have to let it go.
Yeah,
Yes. Go with the flow is my advice.
that's fab. I know. That's why I say read up, get yourself knowledgeable, have a rough idea of what you want and what goes on, and then at least you know your options. And
Don't be afraid to ask questions either. Like, that's the other thing as well. First time around, I was curious about, and I never asked. This time around, not even phased by even asking, even stupid questions.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks you're stupid.
Oh, definitely not. Asking questions is a really good way as well, and it helps you kind of prepare and understand a bit better rather than, because I always think it's harder if something's happening to you if you don't really know what's going on. If you understand it, then you're like, okay, yeah, this is fine, and you feel then that you've made that decision, so it's not. Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
think that's really key to a positive experience.
See, I was quite lucky with the caesarean stuff because a lot of my friends and my sister have all had them, and my sister-in-law. So a lot of people around me had them, so I knew already what to kind of expect when it happened, rather than being told this is happening to you and not having a clue what's going to go where it's happening. But yeah, it was an experience, and this one's safe, and that's the main thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. And as long as you're okay too, you're important as well, don't forget.
That's it as well. Yeah, give yourself a break as well. But I'm the number one guilty party for that. I put too much expectations on myself.
I
So,
know.
and I don't like asking for help. Everybody, especially like my mum and my mother-in-law, although we're still here, I have been told they can. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to turn down support from my mum or my mother-in-law, and they have been here helping and supporting me, but I'm sorry, but you need your mum in times like this. Don't not Everyone else has actually had to keep distance. My sisters haven't even met this little one yet.
Oh,
Which is hard, but anyway.
just take what help you can, and
Yeah, take what help you can. Don't be afraid to try and do it all yourself, because people want to help.
yeah, absolutely make the most of it.
Yes, make the most of it, because the visitors from the midwife and the health visitor are definitely reduced as well. See, before you would get a visit every day for about a week to 10 days from a midwife when you first got home. I saw a midwife 3 times in the space of 10 days, and the third time was because I requested to see the midwife, which is okay. I mean, if I wanted to see a midwife every day, I was allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And then the health visitor, she came for her initial visit, and then it's been phone calls since then. But again, if I wanted her to come out, I can ask her to come out.
Yeah.
So, and then your 6-week check, which is my 6-week check next week, I still need to make an appointment for. Yeah, that has to happen. And your midwife and the health visitor said that if I'm struggling to get an appointment, just because they're really funny about people going down to the practice just now, which is understandable, to give her a shout and she'll sort it out.
Well, that's good. You got somebody on
At the
your
end of the day,
side.
you need 6-week check.
Yes, it's really important.
Yes. So, and I think, I mean, me especially, I know I feel fine, and I probably, you know what, I probably would not go, if I'm honest. But because I won't get my wounds checked, and to make sure it is okay, I will go down. But you have to look after yourself.
You do. You're important. Definitely. Cool. Well, thank you for that. I'll just stop the recording. Have a wee blather with you. Bear with me.